I will be doing a quick tank review for the German Teuton TD, the Jagdpanzer E100. This TD, for the most part, it is a up-armored and a upgun version of the Jagdtiger that plays more of the E100, as this vehicle is pretty much based upon the E100 design with all of the familiar weak spots, which is not that great at times. Besides that, this tank, when you are using it, it plays like a mix between the Jagdtiger and the E100. So as long as you use the appropriate tactics, keep your distance away from enemy tank, use the appropriate cover, and try to hide the weak spots from enemy tanks that can penetrate your armor easily enough at this tier, especially if they're using premium ammunition. You should do well enough as long as you play toward the vehicle's strengths and weaknesses. Let's get into the vehicle stats now. The vehicle stats. What is good about the tank? This tank, the survival ability and the firepower, it is pretty good, based upon a super heavy tank. Now, being based upon a super heavy tank chassis, the mobility and the concealment rating, it is terrible. But you have a pretty good view range and radio signal range as well. Now, let's begin off with the gun. You will be using a howitzer with howitzer stats. So the rate of fire, it is not that great, but it makes it up with a fantastic penetration value, damage output, accuracy, and aiming time. With a good crew, equipment setup, and a consumable setup, you can have anywhere between 2 to 3 rounds per a minute in theory with this gun, which is pretty good. I generally find the average penetration value for the AP, it is pretty good against most tanks if you know where to aim the gun at, while saving the heat for the enemy targets that you need to make sure you're going to be penetrating heat round with. HE, it is a useful ammo type still, as if you hit something with HE, you will be doing a good amount of damage. The damage output as a howitzer, it is pretty good. So, with 2 to 3 rounds that you will be firing in a minute, you can potentially reduce a full hit point tier 10 tank down to 0 in a minute, if you have to. The accuracy of the gun, it is pretty good, so I generally find I do not miss most of my shots as long as I fully aim in onto the target. Now, the only bad thing about this tank that I don't like, it is the gun traverse and the gun depression. If you have played certain Soviet TDs before, especially certain Soviet SPGs, then you know how bad the gun depression and traverse can be. Let's begin off with the gun depression. 6 degrees downward. That is not that great, especially when you are on a hilly or a rough terrain part of the map. So if you are going to make use of the gun depression, it is best to use it on flat terrain mostly, where you can use that maximum of 6 degrees to your advantage. Gun elevation upward, it is 17, which is okay. With the gun traverse limit to the left and to the right being 8. The important thing about the gun here, And the tank, if you want to do a lot of damage in a minute or at the right time during the match, just like the dog, it is important that you know where to go with this tank if you want to do a lot of damage with the tank. Just just like just like the dog, if you're at the wrong place at the wrong time, you can be killed easily enough. The average damage output of the gun here, it is about 3000 damage, which is pretty good. Now, the survival ability, if you can make use of the armor and angle it, you can ricochet a lot of damage with this tank if you're lucky enough to do so in a match. Before I get to the hit points and the armor, I should show you some of the vehicle major weak spots. It is obviously the lower plate here, the upper engine deck here, the upper part of the superstructure here, the rear here, the side of the structure here. I generally find a well-placed shot to the side of the turret here and to this part here. This tank, the ammo rack, it can be damaged easily enough. The engine can be damaged easily enough from a well-placed shot to the lower plate here. So try to hide the lower plate as much as possible with the terrain around you, so you do not show the lower plate to the enemy tank. With the rear here, the armor not being that not that thick, with a well-placed shot to the rear here, it is easy to damage the crew members and modules in a single shot. Now, hit points 2200, which is pretty good. So you can soak up a good amount of damage still and fight on. Armor, it is pretty good, being based on a super heavy tank. The armor in the front, it varies from part of the tank to part of the tank. It is 200 millimeters plus angling. So as long as you angle the turret armor of the superstructure and the hull armor here especially well enough, you can ricochet a good amount of damage easily enough. Side armor, it is 120, which is okay at this tier. The superstructure armor here, most of the shots can easily go through it from the side here straight on, but if you angle the turret armor on the side here well enough, you can ricochet a few rounds. Besides that, most of the shots from the side will be going through your side armor. This armor having a skirt here, if you angle the skirt well enough, you can ricochet a few rounds if you angle the armor well enough. Besides that, most of the guns can penetrate this easily enough. Also with the track here and the space armor behind it, you can eat some of the enemy rounds up and not take any damage, as the round would be tracking you. So that is one way to use your side armor effectively. With most of the track here showing, it is quite easy for you to be tracked continuously. So think very carefully if you need to use the repair kit in a hurry if you are at the wrong place at the wrong time. The rear armor, it is completely rubbish, 150, and it is mostly flat, so anything can penetrate that armor there. Now, mobility for weighing about 136 tons. You are going to have a terrible horsepower to ton ratio with the 1200 horsepower engine. Your horsepower to ton ratio, it is about 9 horsepower to 1 ton. That is not that good. So, you will have a problem reaching the vehicle top speed of 30 kilometers, unless if you're going downhill. With such a super heavy tank, if you're going downhill, then if you're ramming something, you will be doing a lot of damage to said enemy tank if you can hit them with the ram force. Besides that, you can easily reach 10 kilometers plus in this tank, but you will have a problem reaching 20 to 30 kilometers whenever you are on flat terrain at times. The vehicle hull traverse, it is not that great at 22, so if you are at the wrong place at the wrong time and enemy tank are flanking you, without support, you are a sitting duck to be killed quickly enough. Now, the concealment rating, it is utterly rubbish. Due to the size of the tank, without using the camouflage perk and the camouflage net to increase the camouflage rating by a bit, you are going to be seen quickly enough. Now, the vehicle spotting, it is pretty good. View range, it is about 420 meters, with a good crew and proper setup for equipment, with a radio signal range being about 800 meters, so view range and signal range is not going to be a problem for you. Now, when it comes to the research of the tank, you have nothing to research, as this is a tier 10 TD, and you have it for the research already. Now, I will be covering the consumables, the ammunition layout, the equipment, and how are you going to be playing the Jagdpanzer E100. Let's begin off with the consumables. Consumables, I would go with a first aid kit, a repair kit, and a manual fire extinguisher. If you have the gold and the credits laying around, and you want to increase the tank performance by a bit, I would go with the large repair kit, the large first aid kit, the rations, and the automatic fire extinguisher, as these are quite useful consumables if you have the gold and the credits laying around to be using it at tier 10 matches. This vehicle, you don't have a lot of ammo stored in the tank, 24 rounds. On average, I generally find I do not run out of ammo in a match with this tank. But when it comes to certain very long matches, then running out of ammo with this tank, it can be a issue then. With the rate of fire, 3 rounds per a minute over 8 to 9 minute period, you can potentially run out of ammo then. But generally, I find I don't run out of ammo in this tank whenever I am playing it. The ammunition, I would stick with primarily AP and have some heat ready to be used when need be, with having some HE for backup if I need to hit something and do a bit of damage to it still. Even with HE having terrible pen at this tier, as long as I hit something with it, I would be doing a bit of damage to said enemy tank still. Equipment that I went with a super heavy spall liner to increase my protection from ramming, explosion, preventing additional crew member injuries, and reducing the stun effect by a bit. Vents to improve the overall tank performance by a bit, and a large caliber tank gun rammer to decrease the load time by a bit. I generally find almost every single large caliber gun that I use, I always use a large caliber tank gun rammer to decrease the load time by a bit. The other pieces of equipment that you can use if you want to is the toolbox to get your repairs done faster by 25%. Combine this with the repair perk and the large repair kit bonus as well. You can easily get your repair speed down by a lot, so you are not tracked that long. The enhanced gun lane drive, it is not that bad to get a permit plus 10 get a permit plus 10 aiming time speed reduction. Combine that with the gun rammer as well, that is a deadly combo right there. Now, when it comes to the view range options, if you want to go with a view range enhancement, you can either go with coated optics or binocular telescope based upon your personal play style. Coated optics give you a permanent plus 10 view range increase, so you would be getting close to 450 meter view range, while the binocular telescope, it effectively increases your view range up to 450 meters, which is pretty nice, especially when the vehicle it is not staying still. I generally find view range enhancement it is not necessary at this tier due to the perks and the equipment setup that you can have easily enough to have about 450 meter view range at this tier. The camouflage net, it's a wasted piece of equipment on this tank, as the camouflage rating it is utter rubbish. As a tier 10 TD, how I have it set up, I have it primarily as a very aggressive front line TD for the most part, with the allies on my team to back me up. So the play style for the Jagdpanzer E100, for the most part, it is a frontline assault TD, which you can fulfill this role quite well, as long as you play toward the vehicle's strengths, weaknesses, and use the appropriate tactic at the right time. If frontline role it is not necessary at said time, this TD can fill the role of a middle and a back line TD as well to support a push. But I generally find the Jagdpanzer E100, as long as you use the appropriate tactics and cover as you advance as a frontline TD, you can be quite successful as a very aggressive TD. The other roles that the Jagdpanzer E100 can fulfill, if need be, with the binocular telescope on, you can easily be a very good long-distance sniper, and also being a bit of a passive scout for your team whenever you're sniping. Besides that, I generally find using offensive tactics generally work best for the Jagdpanzer E100. As long as you're at the right part of the map, use the right tactics at the right time, you can easily do quite well in this tank, due to the massive amount of damage you can do in a minute with this tank if you use the right tactics. As a tier 10 TD, you will be top tier all the time in tier 10 matches. I have 2 replays to show you how well you can do in the Jagdpanzer E100. Let's go to those 2 replays now. This replay, I will show you how well you can do in the Jagdpanzer E100 when you are playing against other tier 10s in a all tier 10 match here. Let me speed the replay up a bit so I can get to the front line faster. So for the island push here, it is just going to be me, the IS-7 group, and what backup I have in the rear there. So between me and the IS-7s, we should handle the island push here quite well. With the Jagdpanzer E100 not being a fast TD, I am going to try to get myself into a position here on the island here so I can make use of the cover. Seeing there the E100s, the IS-7s, I'm going to risk it to move to the next hill in front of me. I am angling my armor to the best of my knowledge, but the IS-7 penetrated my armor. Probably with a premium ammunition round, I would guess. I am using the heel here to cover my lower plate to the best of my knowledge. So the IS-7 can only shoot at the front part of the armor here, and he will most likely ricochet his round as long as I angle my armor properly. While loading, I am turning the hull so I can increase the effective armor thickness by a bit. It looked like that didn't work, so I used my first aid kit to get my crew back into action. I aim at the IS-7 weak spot there in the turret. The one good thing about the Jagdpanzer E100 that I like is that as long as you can get accurate shots off and make sure they are going to be penetrating said enemy tank, you can reliably enough do a lot of damage in a match, even if you can only fire very few rounds in a match due to the slow rate of fire. So far, I have only fired like 4 rounds so far in the match, which is not too bad with the amount of work that the team on the island here put forward to make this push successful. Let me speed the replay up a bit. It is 7-4, so we're going to win this. I am going to the middle here to shoot at what targets that I can. They're the grill, the IS-7, and the vehicle close to our base. So I am picking which target am I going to shoot at. Seeing the grill is in the open there, I'm going to get myself into a position here and finish the grill 15 off. I am doing pretty good for damage so far. 4,400. Looking at the left side of the map here, there's the grill, the object, and the IS-7 alive still. So I am currently looking at the map to see where they're going to be, so I can plan which way to go, as this is a very slow TD. Seeing the grill is going to be killed, I'm going to try to get into a position where I can shoot at the IS-7. But unfortunately, looking at to my right there, I had a feeling they were going to shoot at me as I was in the open there. Unfortunately, that wasted the time I needed to use to get into a position to fire at the IS-7. This point onward, I did not get to do any more damage, as my team up north there finished the E100 off quickly enough. This match, I did quite well, being one of the top damage dealers on my team. For the one kill that I got, I did about 4,400 damage and about 262 assist damage, which is pretty nice. Let's go to the next replay now. This replay, I will show you how well you can do in the Jagdpanzer E100 when you are playing this TD at the front line sniper, when you are using the terrain around you to your full advantage to accumulate a lot of damage in a match. Just like the talk, I choose a direction that I will be heading in to aid my team. I am heading to the 1-2 line, as this location will give me a good area to shoot at oncoming enemies and have a chance to show you the vehicle armor off, especially when you are using the terrain around here with the angling to increase your effective armor thickness by a bit. The team is divided up pretty good for the most part. Agile and quick vehicles with some backup to the center and right side of the map. Right side of the map. I have a IS-3, the RU, and a T-54 to back me up. It is going to be some time for me until I get to the peak of the hill here. This vehicle, it is not known for its speed, but if you can get yourself into a good position and make use of the gun penetration and damage output, you're pretty much set up for the most part. This area I am in at the current moment, the enemy, unless if they poke cover, they can only see the top part of the superstructure here. Unless if they're going to be using premium ammunition on me to go through the superstructure armor or shoot at the lower plate, they're going to have a problem penetrating my armor, as I will be shooting at what I can. when they poke over. Finally, the gun is done loading, so I am playing the bait game for the game of chicken to see who is going to poke over the hill first for me to shoot at. Fortunately, there is no artillery in this match to harm me, as I am a pretty big target to aim at. So there's the T-54, the RU, the VK, and probably a few TDs in the rear there that I can't see yet. The T-55, I managed to get a good hit in there, doing about 1000. This gun, I generally find on average, the average output for a single shell of damage, it is about 1000, which is pretty good a few of those rounds, and you can reduce a full hit point tank down to 0 in a minute if you have the opportunity. Due to the armor thickness and the angling that I had the vehicle at, the T-28 ricocheted off of the side of the gun mantlet. And in turn, I'm going to pay the T-28 back in kindness by doing about 1,200 damage back to it. When I am not loading the gun here, I fall back here to reload and then move up again, trying to be a bit of a meat shield for the enemy tanks here to shoot at. As the T-54 and the RU at the current moment, they're not that great for hit points at the current moment. The RU there, on the other side there, I load a bit wall, a bit low for damage, for AP, but I did get the RU there down to a one shot now. I managed to hit either the ground or a part of the vehicle armor I could not penetrate. With the loading process here, I am timing my my movement over the hill here to fire and then fall back. I hit the capilla of the VK there, doing about 1000 damage, which is pretty good for me at the current moment between me and the T-54 plus the RU. I have done the most damage so far on this front here, which is pretty nice. The VK there, it tracked me, and I ate the shot up, which is pretty good. I used my repair kit here to push on towards the enemy base here. Now, this is a glaring weakness of the Jagdpanzer E100 in a situation like this. With the Foch, the T-28, and the AMX-30 being quite nimble vehicles, the quick heavies and medium tanks on my team, they're going to get to the enemy base first to get more damage before the end of the match happens. Which the AMX and the Foch should be dead soon enough. This is where my youthfulness for the team comes to an end. During this match, primarily playing quite the offensive frontline sniper, and showing the vehicle armor off, I did about 4,700 damage while blocking about 1,000 damage, which is pretty good. Now, let's go to the garage and do a brief recap on the tank itself. Let's do a brief recap on the Jagdpanzer E100. The tank by itself, it is not that great, as if you are at the wrong place, at the wrong time, and loading the gun as well, you're pretty much a duck in sitting water, waiting to be finished off quickly. But as long as you use the correct tactics at the right time and use the terrain around you to your advantage, you can do quite well in this tank. Whether you choose to play this TD primarily as a very offensive TD or more of a sniper TD when need be. Generally, I find the Jagdpanzer strength is in the gun itself. To make use of the gun, it is quite important to know when to use the appropriate ammo type, against said enemy tank type if you want to succeed in this tank. Generally, most tanks that you have been using so far, as long as you use the appropriate tactics at the right time on said map, you can do generally quite well in this tank. I hope that you learn a thing or two about the Jagdpanzer E100 and how to use it properly. If you like this video, leave a like, a comment, and even subscribe to my channel as well. Have a good day, everyone.